Dan and Dave on the mic tonight, talking truths on the city lights. Conspiracies in the dark they find, fake news twisted, gotta unwind. Politics got us going mad, world gone crazy but we ain't sad. System broken but we're still bad, laughing loud at the lies they had. Smotz and Casey tearing it down, voices loud all over town. Truth and chaos all around, in the system where it's going down. Hidden secrets they expose, truth or lie nobody knows. In the shadows the story grows, bringing heat with every show. From the depths to the top we climb, every twist just feels so prime. Reality like a twisted rhyme, unveil the truths like a perfect crime. Dark and gritty, it's all we see. Tangled tales set us free. Laugh it up with irony, in the depths of conspiracy. On the mic tonight, talking truths on the city lights. Conspiracies in the dark they find, fake news twisted, gotta unwind. Smotz and Casey tearing it down, voices loud all over town. Truth and chaos all around, in the system where it's going down. System where it's going down. Hidden secrets they expose, truth or lie nobody knows. In the shadows the story grows, bringing heat with every steps to the top we climb. Every twist just feels so prime. Reality like a twisted rhyme, unveil the truths like a perfect crime. Dark and gritty, it's all we see. Tangled tales set us free. Laugh it up with irony, in the depths of conspiracy. Dan and Dave on the mic tonight, talking truths in the city lights. Conspiracies in the dark they find, fake news twisted, gotta unwind. Dan Smottz, Dan Smottz and Dave Casey, no slots, they embracing. Primetime spotlight, no daylight, we chasing. Podcast kings fly, rated sensational. From daytime till the night, revolutionary basic. The system is up, now we breaking dawn. Got that primetime shine, only right, never wrong. Drifting through the airwaves where the truths are drawn. Smotz and Casey ride the waves till the early morn. Underdogs rise, crime got their name on marquee. Live wide dialogue, minds wild and free. Sound waves crashing, thoughts igniting spree. Legends on a mission, revolution in HD. The system is up, moving past the dark. Primetime energy, igniting every spark. From talking justice labs to where the deep thoughts embark. Smotz and Casey in the night left an indelible mark. Weekday hustle, turned into nighttime hustle. Listeners double and expanding that bubble. Journey unpredictable, neither subtle nor trouble. Together they flex, breaking all the puzzles. Primetime flex, but it may or may not stay. From night owls, cheering to break of day. Every second a spotlight, the voices lay. No shadows in the system, just the golden ray. The system is up. The system is up.
What we've done here, most of the credit belongs to one of the best video people in the whole liberty movement, a guy named Dan Smottz. I had said, we got to get Dan on this project. And he wrote to me and said, let's go.
I'm going to start with really congratulating you, Tom, as well as your co-partner in filming this.
By the way, Dan is great.
If I had 7 lifetimes, I couldn't produce the results he does in terms of of persuasive, beautiful, amazing video.
Oh, he's a good guy. I sure hope he does well, but I have to guard against any optimism about it.
Dan's a miracle worker. You were Ron Paul. You were some kind of terrible commie, pinko, who shouldn't be listened to.
I'm telling you the truth.
You can't just go killing people, you know.
Hey, you're only one person. You know, you don't mean anything. An idea can't be stopped even by guns.
We're fortunate to have his great skills put to work for our little program here.
Ultimately, I have to remain optimistic in some areas, but I have to be realistic to realize how terrible it is.
Watch the great Massey film, thanks to Tom Woods and Dan Smottz.
It's just a shame that our leader right now is not helping us out.
He's actually doing our new intro for our show.
Well, he's not a chairman of a committee.
The long-term change comes from changing minds.
We have to find something positive out of this.
Dan just has to take his magic and make something really special out of it.
Do something.
Massey AF, almost like MasseyAirForce.com. You can watch it. MasseyAF.com.
This is a Dissident Media production. DissidentMedia.net.
In a world where everything sucks, 2 men have the balls to laugh at it. This is The System is Down.
Ladies and gentlemen, I regret to inform you that Charlie Kirk is still dead. And there's a lot of theories about it. Let's talk about it.
You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of your favorite show that you don't watch enough. The System is Down. Brought to you by people like yourselves. People in the Downers Club. People like Michael McIntyre, James Strickland, William Ogle, Nathan Gull, Gilda Kate, Bob, Autumn, CD, Zach, Trash, Kimberly, Kim Yuppie, Noah, JC, Justico, Joey, Adam, Ozymataz, Sean-Luc Picard, Heffalumps, Javari, Craig, Tim, Howie, Nathan, Mary, Justin, John, and many more. Go get your name on that list and have it read incorrectly someday by going to patreon.com/The System is Down, where you'll get more weird, more raw, more offensive, more content. Lots of backlog content. We haven't been doing after parties lately because there's been a lot of news and stuff that, you know, I don't want to just cut off the main conversation and drag it over into the after party. Typically, when we're doing like a whole bunch of different news stories, it makes sense to break it up into 2 parts, but you know, you can get the ad-free versions if you don't like those over there still. You can get all the backlog, and you can support the show first and foremost, and most important, of course. Patreon.com/The System is Down. Why are we on that one again? All right, there we go. All right. Now, I think we got most of the technical bugs of last week worked out, and we should be sitting fairly pretty, but I don't want to speak ahead of myself. We have another guest today. He is a friend of the show, an author, advocate for all things liberty. He is Mr. Dave Benner, who's not there. Nope, I did that last week. There he is, Dave Benner. Hey, Dave. And now the applause doesn't want to work. All right. You get the full shebang. How's it going, Dave?
Going good, man. Sorry I had this glaring nose. The beam of light coming into my room now has made that happen, but thanks for having me, man.
It's God smiling down on you for daring to discuss this topic, this controversial topic.
What does it mean? It's an omen. It's an omen.
That's right. Dave, this is your first time on the show, right? We've known each other for quite some time. I've seen your work, you've seen my work, and we've passed each other at many events, but have you been on the show at all yet?
Yeah, one other time, actually, to talk about Joseph McCarthy and how he's actually not the supervillain that the modern establishment portrays as such. So this will be the second time. Another interesting topic, but
Nice. I don't remember that at all. I'm really sorry. Like, I feel like we've talked even more than that in person at these events and things than that conversation about Joseph McCarthy from how many years ago? Probably 3 or 4 at least.
Maybe 2. I'm not sure, but
All
yeah,
right, never
but it's
mind.
great to
Moving
see
on.
you guys. And by the way, no,
Good
I
to see
have
you,
to
man.
stop you because your Massey video was freaking amazing, man. And anytime I talk to you, I'm going to bring that back up. So that movie, if you haven't seen that, it's like a 12-minute clip that Dan produced with Tom Woods. It's freaking phenomenal, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. You started saying that before we were on the air. You said, I want to tell you this before anybody else can hear it. I don't want them to know, but I'm a big fan of your work. And I was like, thank you. Would you mind saying it on the show? So thank you for having the courage to praise me on this show.
I could kiss my career goodbye now for having said that, I guess. But
That's right. You probably can. Now, Dave, tell us a bit about you. For the people that don't know you, what's some of your claims to fame or some of your endeavors that you've been working on yourself?
yeah, man. Well, I'm an amateur historian, written 2 books about the founding era, kind of a mini book about another one. I've contributed to the Mises Institute and the 10th Amendment Center. Been really involved in the Libertarian Party, ran the Libertarian Party national Twitter account for some time. Now I'm just an independent content creator, independent journalist. I run Liberty Vault on YouTube. Pleased to say that has exploded recently. I'm happy to say I was able to quit my job over it. So that's what I'm doing now.
That's awesome, man. Happy for you.
That's great.
You ran the Twitter of the Libertarian Party account. What was the tweet that got you canceled, and what was your favorite tweet while you were working there?
I don't know if we have a long enough episode to discuss the number of them,
Yeah.
It was interesting, man. We got some flack for many things, but some of the things I'm most proud of is, coming against Israel from the start, right after October 7th, saying that we want no role in whatever Israel wants to do in Gaza. There are some other tweets about how, child sex transitioning is child abuse when, many forces on the right were not saying that. So I'm proud of those things. I'll defend them to the grave, but there were many tweets that people didn't like.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, you've been posting some things on this topic that we're discussing today as well. And this isn't entirely Israel stuff. I want to talk about some of the other theories as well, leading up to some of the information. Some might call it evidence. It's not even necessarily evidence, but, lines on a conspiracy board that seem to point in any direction. Or if there is evidence, fine. But many people, including our good friend Dave Smith, are claiming that there is zero evidence for or any reason to point towards Israel. We'll talk about all of that, but what's been just your, a little bit of your background and your dealings with Charlie Kirk, not necessarily directly, but your history knowing him and all this going down?
Yeah, I mean, I had never met Charlie. I've been very, keen to pay attention to political dynamics in the country, and he was a big part of the conservative right movement, especially with younger people. I think I'd put him in the top 3 most influential, influencers on the right. And he filled a very unique position. And his death, I really do think, is the biggest profile political assassination since Martin Luther King. And, I know that's not a one-to-one comparison, but this is a big deal. This is a big story. And naturally, the things that come out of it, the narratives that have been sold and, prepared, some of them pre-manufactured. On the right, we were told this has to be a trans shooter. And on the left, we were told this has to be a Groyper. A lot of people went to Mossad as the culprit right off the bat, and that maybe we'll talk about that. But this is a major deal, and it makes me kind of wonder what it would have been like in 68 or 63 if there was a Twitter responding to the RFK assassination, the MLK assassination, and the JFK assassination. And I think this is an outpour of what you would have seen back then too. So that's just my first impressions.
Yeah. I should also mention Dave Casey is here as well. Dave, how are you doing?
Dude.
Now the applause isn't
great,
working
man.
for you. Nothing's working. Hi, Dave.
Actually, hello, dude. Good to be here. Dave, great to see you, man. I'm delighted that you're here, and you just kind of touched on why I'm excited that you're. What's that?
I got it back. Hey, Dave.
Sorry,
there you go.
Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep.
That always
Sorry,
makes me
I've got a
feel
million
nice.
things
But,
on my mind and all of this stuff, and completely glossed over the fact that you were also here. And yeah, I love you, Dave.
I'm easily forgettable. But no, I'm glad that we have a historian here that can maybe look at this from a historical lens rather than just everybody's in the moment. And, if there's fake news, there's fake history, and you got to kind of examine it all. And it's good to see you, Dave. Glad you're here, man.
Absolutely.
Likewise, brother, you got it.
Now, what's not fake news or fake history is that, this came out at the exact same time. These are just things that make you go, And there's going to be a lot of things in this episode that just make you go, They're not exactly tied to each other or necessarily have anything to do with each other. But if you draw any conclusions, that's up to you. But Donald Trump posted on the day that Charlie Kirk was shot, he posted at 3:02 p.m., "We must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot. A great guy from top to bottom. God bless him." And at the exact same minute, Benjamin Netanyahu said, "Pray for Charlie Kirk." Some people have said that this is suspicious. I don't necessarily know how I feel about it. It's a little bit odd that they had the exact same message at the exact same time, but at this point, it's how many other people said pray for Charlie Kirk at 3:02 p.m. at the exact same time as well. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I can answer that. So I've done a deep dive into this, right? Because it was said by a lot of people backing this narrative that Netanyahu, within minutes of Charlie Kirk's death, was tweeting, to pray for Charlie. And it's true if you consider minutes in the form of 39 minutes. But sometimes this is said as if it was right away, indicating possible foreknowledge. But I looked into this. Charlie was shot at 12:23 local time in Mountain Time. And then Benjamin Netanyahu tweeted at 1:02 Mountain Time. Like you showed, that was 3:02. That was from someone taking the picture from the Eastern Time Zone. 39 minutes later, and it was after some prominent figures, including Mike Lee and Pete Hegseth, both of which tweeted to pray for Charlie before this. Now, there had been, a lot of rub about this on Twitter prior to all of those people posting about it. You saw people saying, Kirk was shot, something about this. But this is just one thing I want to be clear on. Take that from what you will. This was 39 minutes after. It wasn't immediately after. So it was within minutes. But I think sometimes when people say within minutes, it's kind of leading them in the direction of potential foreknowledge. And I don't see it from this. So I generally agree with you.
Sure. Yeah, minutes after can be everything up to 59 minutes. That's all minutes after.
Exactly.
What do you think, Dave Casey? I'm going to have to call you by your last name or something.
Sure.
Other
I think
Dave?
that that's not enough right there, but I'm not ready to let him off the hook. That's
Sure.
what that's where I'm at.
Absolutely. And other people have pointed out that one of the first posts that Benjamin Netanyahu made was Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. Now, when I saw this, I thought it was personally a little bit odd. You can't see that. I'm sorry. What's happening here? Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. And then he goes on to praise him, whatever. But it seemed odd I don't know. It just felt like that line there can be read as one of two things, just like a praising of Charlie Kirk or a statement of fact. Charlie Kirk was murdered because he was speaking the truth, and we didn't like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a general statement that most people would have because that was Charlie Kirk's mantra. But I do think there are a lot of suspicious things about how Netanyahu has clearly jumped into this thing, twisted and propagandized it in certain ways. The first major interview he had on this was with Greta Van Susteren, who asked him about this. And not only did he say, Charlie Kirk, essentially, he was portraying him as if he was Ben Shapiro. And don't get me wrong, Charlie Kirk was a Zionist, but he's not Ben Shapiro, and many people close to him have come out to say not only, was he mild on Netanyahu, but he did not like Netanyahu. In fact, the unnamed source that talked to Max Blumenthal at the Gray Zone said that he believed that Netanyahu was being twisted and manipulating him. And Tucker Carlson had a podcast last night saying the same thing, that he had been told by Charlie Kirk directly several times that he did not exactly like Netanyahu. Candace Owens has said this too. Dave Smith had a podcast last night where he didn't really delve into this because he hadn't really talked to Charlie about it. But several corroborating people very close to Charlie have said that He did not like Netanyahu. And the other thing I took from that interview by Netanyahu, they're trying to recapture the American right, clearly, that's being lost on this Israel issue and doubling down on the genocide in Gaza. But he went quick to blame Islamists. If you listen to that interview with Greta Van Susteren, he essentially says that Charlie Kirk's death was due to Islamists and radical Islam. And it's just so preposterous. So there are weird things here in how they're trying to propagandize it. You're seeing Ben Shapiro do similar things right now.
Here's Avi Avidan. I don't know who that is, but this was like almost immediately after Charlie Kirk's death. He posted, if it turns out that the Muslim Brotherhood was behind the assassination of our friend Charlie Kirk, the U.S. must declare war on Turkey, Qatar. No excuses, no delays. Like, just out of nowhere, out of the blue, like, you know, if we find out that this was somebody that I just made up, it's what's funny is, like, people act like to think Israel had any entanglements in this at all is completely preposterous. But then you've got the neocons who are like, if I see even a hint of a turban, then we are to bomb Turkey tomorrow. Like, just completely throwing shit at the wall right out the gate.
Yeah, totally true. I mean, these narratives are pre-manufactured because that's what political discourse has come to. It's that the narrative is much more important than the truth. Even after a very prominent people that was close to a lot of people died, even people close to that person, supposedly, you know, Ben Shapiro and people like that. And he was kind of close to Ben Shapiro. I'm not going to lie about that, but is trying to twist this tragedy into aims that will further the Zionist agenda, as if that needs to be furthered right now, by the way, as Israel murdered the diplomatic party in Qatar, ostensibly a U.S. ally. Yep. So it's just so preposterous.
Absolutely. And after Charlie Kirk died, Ben Shapiro put out this statement, which I think has some good things and some questionable things. And let's listen.
Now, it's still up to us. I saw a lot of rumors online today. I was made aware of this by my team that I canceled some sort of college tour. That's bullshit. I saw those rumors. They are false. I will be coming to college campuses, many of them this year. So will we all, I am sure, because we're Americans and we're not going to be deterred. Charlie's voice is not silent. We're going to pick up that bloodstained microphone where Charlie left it. And to those who would intimidate, who would seek to stop us, who would seek to end free discussion, who believe that they have ownership over public spaces and can violently threaten and kill people who speak freely, we are not going to stop. And I have two words. Fuck you. We will not stop telling the truth. We will never stop telling the truth. We will never stop debating and discussing. We will never stop standing up for what America is and for what she should be. And we will never let Charlie Kirk's voice die. Goodbye to my friend, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing for your family and for your country.
All right. So to this, my response was, nope, I don't have it there. But I said, you know, I like a little bit of the flavor of this, getting back to, you know, the alt-right of yesteryear, the Ben Shapiros, the Jordan Petersons coming out and being like, we're going to actually speak to a next generation. We're going to get out in the streets and fuck you. We're going to do this. But even a part of me likes the idea of Ben Shapiro saying we're going to pick up the bloodstained microphone and carry the banner, carry the torch. But there's also a part of me in the back of my mind that's like, you know, I don't want you to carry the banner, carry the torch. And it also kind of, like, if you listen to it a second or a third time, it starts to feel a little bit like, I'm Ben Shapiro, and I'm here to help you. I'm here to take the microphone that Charlie Kirk had and was starting to disagree with me on some things, and I'm going to take that and make it my thing. And it's like, sorry, it's just
nobody can take
gross.
Charlie's place. Okay, I'll do it.
Right? Absolutely nobody but
of
me.
His voice, by the way, Dan.
Thanks. It's not my best, but yeah, it's crazy. And you even mentioned, I want to play this real quick too. This is Candace Owens's response to some of the Daily Wire's hinting around at Turning Point takeover, which I don't even know how that would work. I don't know. I don't think the Daily Wire is even big enough to like buy out Turning Point or anything like that. But here's Candace Owens.
Those of you who think that you are going to replace Charlie Kirk, okay? Kings are born. You don't just get to depose and tell us that we're going to follow this individual, okay? I'm one of the Masons of Turning Point USA.
Not the best word choice in my
You
mind.
put a shill in
Masons.
Charlie Kirk's chair, in Charlie Kirk's company, and you try to tell us to follow that individual, I will be an enemy of you. There will be nothing that can stop me, okay? And I want you guys to understand, this is not a threat. This is a promise. There will be nothing that can stop me. I will release every single text message. So to those of you who are trying that, I'm seeing the messages, I am telling you to back off right now. Like right now, don't do it, okay? Don't you think about it. I know exactly who you are. I know exactly who you were that were exerting pressure. Don't you pretend to be noble now and say nice things about Charlie Kirk and think you're going to slide into his chair, okay? Over my dead body, which I'm sure can be arranged.
Now, she didn't explicitly say Ben Shapiro or the Daily Wire or anything, but she had been talking about all of that leading up to this point, so it's pretty clear who she's referencing there and saying, I will release all the text messages, not even just the specific ones, but everything on you. I will bring you to ruin to the best of my ability if I die trying, if you take Charlie Kirk's. Is this, do you buy this? Do you think this is legit, or is this theater?
It's not theater. She's been very overt about her interest in being transparent, the people around Charlie, to divulge things that he had talked about in relation to these issues that Bill Ackman and Seth Dillon are talking about. These are very wealthy donors to Turning Point USA that had a very sincere problem with Charlie Kirk inviting Dave Smith to debate Josh Hammer at that event, which he absolutely destroyed. And even that conservative young audience gave him more pops and applause for. And for Tucker Carlson, not only to say that Epstein likely worked for Israel, but also that it's not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel, and we shouldn't be afraid to criticize Israel. Those were major moments at that show that apparently pissed off a lot of donors. And a lot of people around him, like Ben Shapiro and like Bill Ackman, are trying to spin this as if he was absolutely Benjamin Netanyahu's best friend. There wasn't any inner turmoil, but several corroborating witnesses tell this tale, that they maintain this same story that Max Blumenthal brought us, including Tucker Carlson being very overt about that last night. So Candace is interested in having people close to Charlie divulge some of the things he said about it. And, I went through a moral quandary thinking about this and thinking if I could do this, if a friend of mine died, and those personal messages that were to remain personal should be divulged. But, I think there's a plausible case to be made that if people are trying to twist a man's legacy in the wrong direction, you have a moral imperative to do that. That's what Dave Smith did last night, talking about this to some extent. And again, it seems like most of what he heard was corroborating the fact that Charlie was struggling with this issue a little bit. And I think that he made this point, and he's the only one I've heard make this point very well of all the people I've heard talking about this, is that there's some dynamics at play here that explain Charlie's position on Israel. He was neither super hot nor super cold in some ways about Israel. And it's because of his unique place in the conservative world. He was running this organization, a very unique organization. And this doesn't apply to Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, where he had very rich, wealthy Zionist donors that expected a certain kind of product, a certain kind of lead into the Israel first mentality. But he also worked very closely with activists on the ground. And the younger conservatives, we have this from every poll, are turning against Israel in numbers that I think are white pill. It's a source of hope for us non-interventionists that we see this. And Charlie was in between. So he had to kind of weigh those two dynamics together. And that's why he was neither Ben Shapiro nor was he Dave Smith. So that's what I think.
Absolutely. And a lot of the things that you mentioned there, I do have some clips that we'll get to later for some of those. We'll call back to them. But Dave Casey, I want to get your thoughts on the Ben Shapiro, the rumored Ben Shapiro takeover, the Candace backlash to the Ben Shapiro takeover, all that stuff.
Yeah, this is what we haven't really talked about yet. If the episode's called, seriously though, did Israel do it? So if we're gonna look at this as like an investigation, right? You would always follow the money, the motive, and all of those things. So yeah, immediately, if you're gonna buy the official story, which was solved pretty darn quickly, wasn't it? Then that's fine. Or you could look in other directions, and you should, because Turning Point USA is a monolith. Like, when you talk about like taking out generals in like regimes, like Charlie Kirk was a huge part of Trump's victory. And Turning Point and that machine, I had to do some research. I didn't know how huge he was, how huge Turning Point was, what they did,
Same.
the votes they turned out. But it's huge, and obviously that apparatus is going to be important to a lot of people. So I'm not shocked at all that we haven't talked about the potential, maybe, I heard, Dave, maybe you can shed some light on this, but at some point Netanyahu tried to put like a huge influx of cash into Turning Point, and he didn't want to do that. But who's to say that some group like Daily Wire never took that money? Like, their shit's really slick. They got an awful lot of money, so this just pisses me off to no end that these vultures are here 48 hours later. I mean, dude, we know who Ben Shapiro is, who he serves. He was attacking Ron Paul, saying the same thing, the Jews, in 2011, going hard like it's your job to take out real conservatives, because that's what they do. Latch on, destroy the movement or whatever, grassroots is going on, and then they replace it with this parasitic, fucking just terrible imitation bullshit that's fully funded from however they get their money, but it's quite clear, to me, that's where I would look if I was investigating this crime.
Agreed.
Yeah, it partly, I don't blame the spirit of Ben Shapiro, coming out swinging like we're not going to stop, screw you type of language. But he's seeming to try to take ownership over Charlie in the way that he verbalized that, despite the fact that Charlie disagreed with very recent things compared to him on Israel, including being one of the most prominent people to go to Trump personally, a good friend of Donald Trump, and urge him not to bomb Iran. And this is when Ben Shapiro was out on Twitter saying, we must finish the job. This is a job half done. We need regime change there, using the farcical, Iran nuclear weapon argument that Benjamin Netanyahu has been trying to sell us since I was in diapers, by the way. But there isn't any evidence really that he is going to take over that organization. That's been going through the internet like crazy. People in my comments saying that all the time, that he's going to take over. If so, it hasn't happened yet. And we don't know what their board will decide. They have a board. It looks like his wife is going to play some kind of prominent role in the organization too. But the vultures are circling. You're right about that.
Absolutely, the vultures are circling. And Erica, Charlie Kirk's widow, came out and gave a speech a couple days after his death that has raised some conversation. Here's a short clip of that.
If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die. All of us will refuse to let that happen. No one will ever forget my husband's name, and I will make sure of it.
Now, I would say that was probably the spiciest clip out of the entire speech that I could find, because I actually pulled that clip for Dissident Media. That was about the spiciest thing, which is the type of stuff that you put on the internet and whatnot. She went on to say things like, "I pray for the people who carried out this act. I pray for this person and that person. I hope that we can all find a better path," or whatever. I don't want to put words in her mouth. I haven't watched it in about 5 or 6 days, but that was the spiciest that it got. And then the internet immediately blew up with people on Twitter, at least, saying she looks profoundly evil. She looks evil. And people saying that here's the first of 12 fake cries. And here's this, here's that. Like, she looks like a demon. She looks possessed and stuff. It's like she watched her husband get murdered in front of her and her children less than 48 hours ago and had the balls to come out and say anything at all. And it wasn't like, fuck you, burn this entire country to the ground. Like, you should be thankful that she glared a little bit. That's what constitutes calling her evil immediately after her husband died, and she comes out to bless the people that are evil in the world. Any thoughts, Dave's?
Yeah, I mean, statements like that reaction you posted, that's why we have a culture war right there. If that's someone's earnest reaction to this travesty, this duplicitous murder in 4K in front of our eyes from a wife that's scorn about it, and she looks evil, I just, it's so unbelievable. But some of the responses to this on both the left and right, I think, have been so terrible. Yeah. Trying to collectivize this as, a crime that was committed by the entirety of the American right, and on the other side cheering this in such vile ways imaginable, saying we got him and stuff like that. This is so horrendous that both responses on the very extremes are so preposterous. But that's just my thoughts.
What do you think, other Dave?
I'll tell you what, man, I had a rough go of it. Was it Friday, 9/11? I was just like, wow. Like, I just kind of did some some math in my head. Like, I have gone gray fighting for the whole time. It's the same people moving towards the same shit, dude. And to see how terrible people were, it made me so fucking sad. I'm not going to lie. I was just like, wow, we've devolved to this point. And that's just so terrible. And I really got to the point where I was like, I've spent a lot of like, hoorah, we can fix this energy in my activism. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, fuck, I'm not sure. Like, I don't, I'll fight forward like my homies do, but still it's like, damn.
But they're fighting forward too and calling for violence while doing it. Like, I do have multiple
well
clips.
Said, Dave.
We don't have to get into a bunch of them, or we don't really have to get into any of them. There's a bunch of people who are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. This poor woman lost her job because she dared post terrible things on the internet. And we can talk about cancel culture and all that. And but I did want to at least address the responses from Mr. Destiny, who's been trending over the last 24 hours because he's been called out for saying some less than, appropriate things, and some people are saying they're illegal things. Let's hear.
Shout out the crime statistics. Not exactly like.
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't care. I'm playing video games. Okay, I'm done today. I don't give a fuck.
Yep, he doesn't care. Maybe I shouldn't have said that on the internet. He also went on Piers Morgan and said, Charlie Kirk would still be alive if Trump didn't get shot. Or Charlie Kirk would still be alive if Trump didn't get reelected, because every time Trump gets elected, there's riots in the street, which is quite funny. It's like, the left needs to wake up. We need to stop electing Republicans, because every time we elect Republicans, we leftists go crazy and kill people. Like, wait.
It's like blaming the Israeli genocide on Hamas, like, endlessly. And there's no culpability from the IDF. Yeah, this is what Destiny does. And I'll just say Destiny did this when a man was killed at that Trump assassination attempt in Butler. Immediately after that, you guys might have talked about that before. He went out there and implied, well, the guy deserved it, and seemed to actually not understand why people wouldn't think that that is the right mentality. Even people on the left that said, you know, this is horrible that this guy got killed. So this is his MO, I hate to say.
Well, there's a line, because Destiny is a guy who has like snarky, dark, dry, gallows humor, which I do also. And I have said some terrible things just because I have that sense of humor. I don't want anything bad to happen to Destiny, Charlie Kirk, or anybody else, but when the time comes, I might make a joke. It's not because I hate somebody. It's because I find dark things funny. Destiny does that too, so he gets away with it a lot, and I give him a pass a lot, but when he comes out and says things like, you guys aren't scared of dying enough in the streets because your guy won, it's like, that's not a joke. That's just, you want people to be afraid of dying by your hand in your people's hand.
Yeah, man, I met Destiny once in person, actually in Nashville. And you know what I told him? I didn't get into politics or anything. I said, thanks for coming here in person to debate my boy Clint Russell on Ukraine. Yeah. You know, no animosity, no aspersions cast, but that's how he treats people he disagrees with. And I disagree with Destiny a lot on a lot of things.
Everybody does, including his son, but we won't talk about him. Dave Casey, any thoughts?
He makes me feel so uncomfortable. He's like the worst leftist. So, I mean, it's his whole energy is terrible. And he's said some fucked up shit. And talk about terminally online and just the worst example, the worst parts of internet culture. It's just absolute shite.
Absolutely. Now, 3 days, I think, after Charlie Kirk's death, I wanted you guys' thoughts on this, because Charlie Kirk's widow also put this out, which, I don't know.
Oh, I love you. I love you. I love you. I know. I love you.
Those Trump hands? They look pretty orange.
God bless you.
Now, I know that people look different after they die, but that looks like a fake hand, and I know people look different after they die, and I'm probably being stupid, but also, in addition to it looking odd, the video, I guess I can justify it. Like, I want this last video of me with Charlie, my husband. I can justify it there, but the video feels odd to me, and it also feels odd that they had him embalmed and in a casket within, like, 3 days after an assassination, a direct assassination. We don't need to do any further investigation here. Am I wrong?
Well, you know, man, I'm not involved in this trade. I can't speak to whether that's appropriate timing-wise. It's not something I feel comfortable talking about. But what I do know is people handle grief differently. I don't think that I would do this with a spouse, you know, and put it on the internet. But I'm not in Erica Kirk's shoes either. So I don't know how she's dealing with this grief. She chose to deal with it this way. I think she has every right to deal with this the way she wants. But I have no information, you know, saying that there's anything nefarious about this whatsoever.
Sure. Dave Casey.
Yeah, just matter of taste, I guess, on this one. I thought, you know, it struck me that she sounded mic'd, which was weird because somebody is like videoing and she sounded, which is interesting, but
it's not.
She can do whatever she wants.
But
whatever.
As a video guy, if I was Erica Kirk's video guy, and I knew that she was going to go up to say her last words to Charlie at the casket, I'd be like, I know this is weird, but do you mind if I mic you up and get your last words to Charlie Kirk? Because that's going to be powerful. I wouldn't feel like, it feels weird that it was so soon that it was released, but if it was like worked into a video later on, like for it to be its own standalone thing was just awkward. But I don't know. I do have the Tucker Carlson clip here that you've referenced a couple times, Dave.
He did not like Bibi Netanyahu, and he said that to me many times, and he said it to people around him many times. He felt that Bibi Netanyahu was a very destructive force. He was appalled by what was happening in Gaza. He was above all resentful that he believed Netanyahu was using the United States to prosecute his wars for the benefit of his country, and that it was shameful and embarrassing and bad for the United States, and he resented it. Didn't hate Netanyahu. He wasn't out there with a placard saying that, but he certainly expressed that to me and a lot of other people. And there's no question that Bibi's defenders on the internet will call me a liar or a kook, but that's a fact. And enough text messages exist that I think it can probably be verified in pretty short order. Not that it needs to be, because that is true. Shortly after that speech, there was a very intense attack on Charlie, and to some extent on me, not that I really noticed. But on him, I have no donors. He had $100 million worth of donors. And so, because he was involved in a different project from just yapping on the internet, which is what I do for a living, he was dependent to a great extent on his donors, of course. It's a nonprofit. And they went after him and tormented him. Not all, of course, many were supportive, but the ones who were offended by my speech, and there was a small, very intense group who were, tormented Charlie Kirk until the day he died.
Now, with that, I mean, we're going to bring up a lot of people that are controversial in the media these days because they're speaking out against the stuff that's going on in Israel. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Dave Smith. All these people have gotten their shit on the internet for being anti-Semites or whatever. We need to take a quick break from our sponsor, but before we do, Mr. Benner, I'm Mr. Historian. I'm curious, any thoughts leading into this next part of the discussion? Anything historically that you think stands out as, like, some people say that, you know, Israel killed JFK or this or that. I don't know who did what, but where do you land on all that? And, you know, if you say anything, you're a Jew hater or whatever, where do you land on that topic?
Well, I tend to believe that the CIA had some role in killing Kennedy. I can't name it. I don't know it exactly, but that's become more clear upon the release of the Kennedy files that show that the CIA was surveilling Lee Harvey Oswald, including on a trip to Mexico City, where he made communication with the Soviets. And by the way, some of the information regarding the wiretapping of Oswald was withheld from the Warren Commission. This came out in those files. It's a story that almost no one has talked about. I think that the CIA was culpable to some extent. So does Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's talked about that actively. As far as the Israel connection, now the Israel thing is interesting with JFK for two reasons. Number one, he wanted the the American Zionist Council, the AZC, to register under FARA, an act that requires all foreign lobbies to register. That's what AIPAC gets around, and that's why they can infuse our politicians' pockets with so much cash, leading them into a pro-Israel mentality. He wanted them to register under that act such that the Israel lobby would be curtailed. He also, via the Dimona Project, wanted to stop Israel from acquiring nuclear weapons in the 1960s. And we have correspondence between him and David Ben-Gurion, the Prime Minister of Israel. Many people think he's, the primary founding father of Israel, to try to put a halt to that. So there's interesting things in connection with him in that regard. Now, in this issue, there's a lot of other things that I think are weird about the Fed narrative. It doesn't lead me to the conclusion that it has to be Israel. But, some people are saying this guy that they caught is a patsy and, saying that despite the fact that he's not claiming that, no one near him is claiming that, no one, legally representing him is claiming that. But some of those same people, they say that Oswald was a patsy because he said it, because he said he was a patsy and he didn't shoot JFK. So just one parallel there that I've thought of in these dynamics.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll find some more along the way. But if you've found yourself injured on the job, no matter what your job is, be it speaking or being president or talking on the internet about things, go on over to Lone Star Injury Attorneys.
The great William Shakespeare once said, "First thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers." That's right. It is common knowledge that literally no one in the known universe actually likes lawyers. That is, until they're saving your ass. Max the Axe at Lone Star Injury Attorneys is a professional ass saver. A rare breed, though he be a lawyer, he is indeed a principled libertarian, a defender of the injured and downtrodden, a supportive, faithful Downers Club member, my personal favorite, and a shockingly kind and hospitable fellow at an award-winning personal injury law firm. So if you've been injured on the job in an automobile accident or some other form of cattywampus beyond your personal control, visit LoneStarInjuryAttorneys.com or just Google Max the Axe for maximum results. Consultations are free and you don't pay a single dime unless you win. Go with the pros at LoneStarInjuryAttorneys.com and get your ass covered.
And we're back. Now, we are going to get into some conspiracy theories, some crazy conspiracy theories. Before we do, I wanted to point out Ted Cruz's post. He saw this "fuck Charlie Kirk" on the overpass, and he gave it the old landlord special for justice right there. It's just a big old bird shit there to make it look better than saying mean things about Charlie Kirk. Good on him. God bless you, sir. You're doing the Lord's work.
Hey, Dan, that's the kind of photo that someone's going to find some weird abnormality like Chuck Schumer trying to grill hamburgers without knowing how to grill hamburgers, right? And putting cheese on them raw. I just expect that this is something that he's never done in his entire life.
Yep. And it's a good comparison just to government itself. Just everything that it tries to do, it fucks up and makes it even worse. Like it's what an idiot. Get some brown, nerd.
Absolutely. Now, there have been quite a few rumors going around, quite a few theories and things, and people zooming in and enhancing all the footage of Charlie Kirk's assassination and trying to figure out what's what. And I have seen so many things that are like, yes, that is odd looking, and I don't know what to make of it, but I am not convinced of anything at this point. But this is, I think, one of the first ones going around where the guy behind Charlie Kirk while he's speaking gives hand signals, and then another guy gives hand signals. You guys watch this, let me know, are these hand signals or is this a guy out in the hot sun just scratching his arm?
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Do you know how many...
I mean, it's odd. I can see how people could come to that conclusion. Guy tips his hat a little bit. He's filming, too, at the same time. He scratches his nose. Then Charlie leans forward. Another guy puts his arm out and then kind of leans and rubs his arm. That's not the most normal movement to be making unless you're just fidgeting because you're in the heat or whatever, and I'm frozen again. But,
some professional security officers have viewed this footage and said that these were definitely hand signals. A few people have weighed in and said that. As to what it means, some people have weighed in and said that there was nothing abnormal about these types of hand signals that sometimes substitute things that security guards would say on walkie-talkies to others. I'm not an expert in this field in any way, but I have heard several people come out that are experts in this field. Remember, trust the experts, I guess, right? But I don't believe that in every case. But in this case, it seems like a few people have said that this is the type of signals that you would use when things are going as planned, actually.
Okay. So you're saying that they are hand signals, but they weren't necessarily indication of take the shot. They might have been indication of we're doing good, checking in with other security.
I am, and there's been no attempt that I have known to connect these guys with the shooter or with a shooter. And if you don't think this guy is the shooter, whatever, I believe he was a shooter. There might have been more people involved. I think there's an open question on that, especially as it pertains to George Zinn. We can talk about that if you want. But, I have no reason to doubt that this was a shooter that was involved in this, and that, there's nothing that I've seen that's connecting him to these people. Now, I'm not saying that's impossible, but it behooves people that are so dug into this narrative to produce something. Show me something. I expect that same thing from Kash Patel, and he's covering it up. He's covering some things about this up. We could talk about that, but that's where I land right now.
Remind me of that later, because I don't know much about the cover-ups, but I have some thoughts on Kash Patel. Dave Casey, your thoughts on hand signals?
Yeah, I saw another video with another guy in the front of the crowd doing hand signals too. And Owen Schroyer, the guy who just rage quit InfoWars over there, he had some interesting theories about the camera might be okay. Yeah, you're on it. I was
asking your thoughts on this one, Dave, and then we'll get to the other ones. But
yeah, we can jump to it. But no, I mean, okay, that was interesting. I didn't know that about the legit hand signals. Like, that's interesting to know. We don't know. I don't know if those people are his security or what, but I've heard, I don't know if we'll get to it or not, or how much we should talk about it, but yeah, I've heard some interesting theories about how it's, I mean, the guy maybe that they have right now is not the guy.
Oh, we'll certainly get there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am really curious about anybody giving hand signals. I want to know about those hand signals. That's
for sure.
I do too. I would love his security, if it was his security, to come out and, set the record straight on this. I haven't heard much curiosity about this from the mainstream media, other than a few pieces, debunking it through people saying that it's right. But I do want to hear from them directly.
Yeah. Some people are also, Dave Casey, you mentioned these next two. This is the palm shot theory. This is a guy that was in the front of the crowd. It seems like something moves on his shirt, and I've never heard of a palm pistol, but I'm not a gun guy either. And so at the exact moment that Charlie Kirk reels back, a man in the front of the crowd tugs at his shirt sleeve a little bit, and I don't know. I don't see any way that a bullet could have come out of that, and his shirt not move any more than that. Seems even more like he was scratching himself and not aware of what the situation was. I'm not really buying the palm pistol shot personally, but what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Same here. I think you're going to find, I think there were a few thousand people at this event. I think there were people picking their nose during this event. I think people were texting during this event. I think people were probably shading their eyes from the sun in this event. And in no way would I think anything, if it was coincidentally happening at the same time, would point in either direction here. That doesn't mean there isn't more nefarious things or a conspiracy involved here, but this doesn't do it for me.
Sure.
I'm with Dave on that one. And it does strike me as the thing that could, when they put stuff like this out, like the holograms on 9/11 and stuff, will just take you away from legitimate
Directed
things.
energy weapons. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the camera gun, like, I don't think so. I'm pretty, I lean to think that it's a shooter far away who wasn't the guy they have right now. That's where I'm at.
Now, Dave Casey, as you mentioned, Owen Schroyer of InfoWars, or formerly of InfoWars, recently removed from InfoWars, said, "I am 99% certain," which is a large percentage amount, "that this is an exit wound. The camera, which was first taken down in footage we haven't seen, is probably the most important video evidence that we know of." So he's insistent that the grainy footage that we've all seen of Charlie's initial contact with something in his neck is in fact an exit wound. Anybody else agree? I have no idea. I have zero bearing on whether or not that's a entrance.
I'm not a ballistics
99% is
expert.
pretty sure. 99 is pretty close. So
I don't know enough about ballistics to make a judgment from the information we have on this, and I'm not going to pretend that I am. So
yeah, we need Dexter on it, which is weird because I've seen a whole lot of videos about Charlie Kirk, like the creepy conspiracy videos, and they use the Dexter music in the background, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. We do need a Dexter on the forensics. Oh, this next one I think has Dexter music in it. In fact, this is another conspiracy, just clue, whatever, that some people are bringing up. This is the alleged shooter, whose name is what? Ryan Reynolds? No? What's his name again?
Tyler Robinson.
Tyler Robinson. This is a picture of him that has been out there floating around, and if you notice on the screen, there's just a random landmass, and here's what this theory is going for. With the Dexter music that I'm going to get a copyright strike for. So we'll turn that off. So they zoom in on the image, and they say the closer you look, the weirder it gets. It's the Goat Island Marine Reserve stock photo, something. And then they show the island, then they show more of the island, and then you see down at the bottom there's Valhalla Danish House. I don't know what that is. Somebody else feel free to look into it. Yes. And then
to my friend Charlie Kirk,
they have the
rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
The clip that many people are pointing out about Kash Patel saying, "I'll see you in Valhalla," to a very, conservative Christian influencer guy. I don't know. I can, again, see both sides of this. He is Hindu or whatever, and he believes in that thing, and I don't know. I don't know. But do you guys think there's anything to the computer screen that had an image on it that had something, a pinpoint of Valhalla?
Man, this is the first time I've seen this, and that's kind of weird. But to me, to make a connection about like one specific location on that place that wasn't even highlighted on the screen with that, it is a little bit weird to me. I don't think I can jump to any conclusion based on this, but this is the first time I've heard this one. It's at least interesting.
Yeah. Dave Casey, you're not a historian. You're with me on the conspiracy tinfoil side of things. I think it's odd, but I think it's also a bit like, how many other dots could be on the map of that island. I don't know if it's that indicative of anything, but what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. There's already been doctored photos and things, and so
to doctor this one, all it would take is to put Valhalla. Just type out the text Valhalla on literally anything and say, "See, that proves it."
Yeah, that is weird though that Kash Patel did maybe choose that particular verbiage, and it did remind me too that this is the thing that stopped us from talking about Epstein.
Yep.
So that's interesting too.
That's on the list.
Well, it's interesting to me because Valhalla is supposed to be like an Odinist thing. I thought that Vikings believe pagans, right? In Northern Europe. And I thought that he was a monotheistic Hindu. Maybe there's some connection I don't know about that, but I thought he was like Vivek Ramaswamy in that regard.
Yeah.
And like, that's weird to me if it's not even his religion, but there's probably something pertaining to that I just don't know about him. So just want to be clear.
Don't know. Also on the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, I wanted to point this out. It went back and forth. Is he a trans person? Is he dating a trans person? Is he a conservative Republican? Is he a griper? His parents were Republicans, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to bring this up because this picture was going around for at least 12 hours until it changed into something else entirely. But I liked that this was evidence of it. This was indication that he was a Trump supporter because he had a Trump costume. He dressed as Trump for Halloween, and to which I said, and I can go grab it right now if anybody needs evidence, but I literally had that costume, and it is literally zero indication of my political views, any way, shape, or form, that I own that costume and would wear it for a picture on Halloween.
Yeah, man, I just thought it was so vile how different sides tried to manufacture this narrative and just push it on everyone right away just for the specific purpose of weaponizing the state against their political rivals. And right now you see Pam Bondi talking about how, hey, there's this thing called hate speech. It's different than free speech. And by the way, we'll honor Charlie Kirk, the guy sitting under the prove me wrong sign, debating leftists to try to push this and ram it down people's throats. Clint Russell was right when he said that should be viewed as a freaking resignation letter, man. And if the Epstein cover-up wasn't enough, this effing is enough.
Agreed. And we also will get to that someday. We will get to all of the things that you guys are talking about. Let's go back to some Israel stuff because it's important that we definitely dive into that. Dave Benner, you mentioned what some people are calling the patsy, the scapegoat, whatever, Mr. George Zinn, 71. He was apparently shortly after charged with having child porn charges, falsely claimed he shot Charlie Kirk, hit with child porn charges. So I don't know, was that after or before this incident? Either way, there's
after.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things on this guy. Apparently, he said, "I did it so that the shooter could get away," and there's some speculation. I mean, that should be a charge of its own. If you're admitting that you were even if nobody hired you, you were choosing to be a patsy. You were choosing to be an accomplice to a murder.
To me, this is the most important thing that needs to get focused. This thing is weird even for an insane person, let alone a sane person, not only to claim that they did the shooting at first, but then later your explanation is, I was trying to help the shooter get away. Now, I haven't seen anyone make this connection between this guy and the shooter whatsoever. But we do know from text messages that the FBI released that the proclaimed shooter, the guy that they arrested, Tyler Robinson, texted his live-in boyfriend that's transitioning. I'm going to call him a he. It's 2025. I don't know the correct nomenclature, but I'm going to call
I don't
him
even
a
know
he,
which way it was going, so I don't know what to call it at this point.
Right, but he said to that individual, they caught a guy. The guy that they caught is not the right guy. Now,
Yeah.
George Zinn is interesting. I did a deep dive on him in a few videos. He is a historical gadfly that lives in Utah. He's been to political events since the 1980s. He's known as something of a disruptor. He's had trespassing charges because of it. And he actually, in 2013, days after the Boston Marathon massacre, if you guys remember that, he threatened to put bombs at the end of the Salt Lake City the race that they were running. I forgot what they're called, right? And so we know that there's a history here of him injecting himself into some of these violent things.
Right.
And, trying to make it about him. And that might be the case here. But at the same time, man, this is being ignored. And he was released 6 hours later after telling authorities they should look at his phone too. And then that's when the authorities said that they
arrest
found
me,
the
bro.
child
Shoot me.
porn.
He was saying, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me.
So between this and the screwdriver and the time he took on the roof, according to the narrative, I think those things warrant more attention than anything else. I think the text messages are a red herring. We can talk about that later, but that's the George Zinn thing.
Sure. Casey, what are your thoughts?
I think the text messages are a red herring too, but I don't know about the screwdriver, so I'm interested in that.
Honestly, I don't know that much about the text messages either, and I know nothing about the screwdriver. Go ahead.
So the screwdriver is a utility that the killer, the shooter, Tyler Robinson, apparently used on the top of the roof to assemble the firearm. Now, if you guys remember this in this investigation, the original Fed narrative, and I think one of the highest ranking, investigators in this, it wasn't Kash Patel, went through his narrative.
Can I predict where this is going? The gun had to have been disassembled for him to get off the roof in time, so that they planted a screwdriver, and they're like, see, that's the smoking screwdriver, and that's how he did it. Is that where this is going?
Well, what the original narrative is that he carried the that he both assembled and disassembled the gun. But now the narrative that they're going with is he got on the roof, and 8 minutes later, he got on the roof at 12:15, and then 8 minutes later took that shot. And in that 8 minutes, he assembled this firearm with the screwdriver. And they have DNA apparently from the screwdriver saying that. But a lot of people that have weighed in on this, that are rifle experts and weaponry experts, have said that even someone very familiar with this type of firearm, it was a 30-06 Mauser, I think, would probably not be able to assemble it that way. And that they're sticking with this story, which I actually think this story is more plausible than the original, because they're saying he carried the firearm in his backpack up to the roof, and that's where he assembled it, and he never disassembled it. But some people said, hey, the footage makes it impossible that he was carrying the rifle off the roof. I'm 50-50 on that one. I can't completely tell whether or not he has a rifle there. It's grainy. But the point here is they switched the narrative. Why? Why did they switch the narrative? What led them in the different direction? And I think it behooves the FBI to explain that.
Absolutely. Dave Casey, any thoughts?
Yeah, in our criminal investigation, it's looking more and more like there's a cover-up from the highest levels down. Like, why the fuck are you pivoting Pam Bondi onto hate speech when there's an obvious... Like, what does that have to do with this? Nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. Mm-hmm. So, stop with the quick pivots. And it's quite a tell, I think, to just beeline towards hate speech. The free speech party, Donald Trump, MAGA movement. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the most unity I've seen in a long time, was the fuck you, Pam Bondi. Are you serious? So, yeah.
Now, you guys mentioned that the day that Charlie Kirk got shot, the whole bill to release Epstein documents of some sort was squashed down, was voted no, and nobody had any idea that went on. It's completely...
the timing for that. What horrible timing for Marjorie Taylor Green and Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna for that, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then that could be swept under the rug.
What perfect timing for everybody else.
Yeah, perfect time for everyone else. And the feds already tried to sweep this under the rug because if you remember, they did that farcical release of 33,000 documents. Again, stuff that had already largely been published about this. It was a repeat of Bindergate, right? Bindergate back in, what was it, February or March, where the influencers got those binders. It was just documents we had all seen. That's what they tried to do to bury this press conference of Epstein victims standing with Marjorie Taylor Green and freaking Thomas Massey saying, we're with these guys, not Mike Johnson and the cover-up artists. So that is really horrible. That it's such a bad dynamic.
Absolutely. And having nothing to do with Epstein, Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin is now on suicide watch.
Fox News alert, Charlie Kirk's assassin is on suicide watch, and he's not cooperating with the police. But his DNA was found everywhere, from the towel he conceived the gun in to a screwdriver found near the sniper's nest. The investigation isn't stopping with Tyler Robinson.
Now, he's on suicide watch. I think this is also Epstein related, so we'll go ahead and push this in here as well as one of the final things that Charlie Kirk said on his show.
Lies that Epstein, with his little friend Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who is obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies, that there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz-kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well. The sweatpants and the Harvard jacket, the kind of disheveled hair, looking as if he was so smart and above the clouds that he was doing advanced mathematic equations on the back of napkins. But if you actually go into some of the videos of people that met with Epstein at the time, they said he was awfully unimpressive when it came to finance and markets and economics. And it's nothing new that if you're in the intel agencies, you want to try and get as much blackmail on powerful people as possible. Easy, not hard. And this is no longer just speculation. First of all, the evidence that shows that Epstein was a creation of either Mossad, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, Saudi intelligence, or maybe he was just a hired gun. Maybe he was just the guy that countries would go to and park a couple $100 million and say, hey, can you get one of the members of the royal family with a 13-year-old so we can get them to do what we want to do? Members of Congress are actively being blackmailed. The Epstein playbook is being used on a daily basis. Jeffrey Epstein was not a financier. He was not a hedge fund manager. Jeffrey Epstein was a key player in a multi-decade blackmail operation against the most powerful people on the planet.
Oh, man, that is, those are some strong words. Not only for, like, he noticed that he hinted at Mossad being one of those intel agencies, but even if you took that statement out, this is going against everything that Trump's administration is currently pushing as well. Charlie Kirk, like, making enemies of two very key players, Israel and Donald Trump's administration. I don't know. Doesn't necessarily prove anything, but it's definitely evidence that he was going against the narrative of all of his donors.
Yeah, man, I don't know about all of his donors, but most of them probably. So there's a few interesting takeaways from that. Number one, you're totally right, Dan, that they do not want him talking about this. And by they, I mean the Zionist lobby, AIPAC, people very deeply entrenched in this administration that are, bone to flesh Israel first. But I think it is also worth noting, in the interest of fairness here, he did list that among several options, of which U.S. intelligence was one. And I believe in the clip you played, it cuts out him actually making another potential observation that he could have been a Saudi intelligence agent. And we know that Epstein was found with a Saudi passport, actually, when the FBI raided his home and collected evidence. But, yeah, absolutely. This is a relatively mainstream talking point among the dissident right, but not the establishment right. It's something that you would not want him to talk about. But at the same time, he's not so ironclad as saying, this was probably an Israel operation like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson have said. So that's my balanced view on it.
Sure. Absolutely. Dave Casey.
Yeah, man, it just kind of struck me that, you have the fake Christians like Ted Cruz who don't understand anything that they're proposing that they is their number one cause, right? And then here you have this guy. I think that might have been part of the thing too in our criminal investigation here, is that what is there to blackmail Charlie Kirk for? Can you do that? Or does he lead his life in such a way that that's not really on the table? So if he wasn't ever playing ball, then you'd have to maybe escalate that to something else. I would write that on our chalkboard on our investigation.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously the Epstein stuff plus this, it's just two huge strikes against Trump and the DOJ and the entire MAGA movement for fucking that up, for flubbing the ball twice.
Amen.
And we can't pretend that it's a mistake too. Like Pam Bondi's the top attorney. She knows the First Amendment. Like it's such basic stuff. So she knows what she's going against on purpose. And I just, I wish that it was just them being stupid and, aloof. I wish Occam's razor was at play here, but I think that there's more. I think that points in our investigation more towards nefarious motives than just blundering idiots.
Dan, can we talk about the Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly clips that a lot of people are citing to indicate a potential turn of Charlie Kirk against Israel?
By all means. I might have them. I might not. I'm not sure. Also, at some point, we kind of glossed over the text messages too, which you had mentioned. I want to get not even just your thoughts on those. I don't know much about them. I've heard a few messages that were sent or whatever. You're talking about the text messages that were sent from the alleged assassin to like a friend or something that were like, I'm gonna kill Charlie Kirk, and I swear I just did that. Absolutely, that's true.
Yeah, there's a few things here, but I think there's one thing that's really important about this. This is getting a lot of attention right now. I just got done watching Candace Owens' show about this. First of all, the FBI has not given timestamps for these texts, and that would be very pertinent in lining up with the timeline of what we know about what was published about this when we know George Zinn was being arrested because he makes reference to that and some other references. And some of the people around this have said, like, no 21-year-old or 22, I forget how old he is, would have said the word vehicle. There's no way he said the words vehicle and drop site in these texts. And I don't know that there's much evidence that they have to go through like writing samples of him to make that judgment and things like that. I think it's plausible he used the word vehicles. A lot of people casting shade upon this, that these texts can't be right. Well, if that's true, that's a get out of jail free card for him, that the FBI releases fake text that they can get from, AT&T or Verizon or their partner, that the legal team could construct a narrative here that the FBI is, trying to frame this guy. That would get this guy out. We have no indication from anyone close to the family, I think, that those texts are fake. There's no indication that the legal team is saying it's fake, that he's saying it's fake. Nowhere I've seen has judged this, but that would be a get out of jail free card. So I really think this is a red herring. If you wanted to frame him, you would have to not release texts like this and make it, so susceptible to a disruptive narrative by the defense. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, I was fighting my camera that whole time, and I still am. Dave Casey, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that we're getting to it, but I would like to maybe know who the real shooter is. That's what I would like to know. All this blackness.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know.
There we go.
Nothing.
Keep on cruising. Where are you at?
Because I said that everything was working at the beginning of the show, so now nothing's going to work.
There you are, bud.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, but I'm sure that the listeners got something out of what you just said. I'm sorry, we don't have to circle back. Now we will. I do want to bring up the Harrison Smith thing, because that's like when the Charlie Kirk stuff first happened. I immediately went to Twitter, and you can probably find the tweet. I immediately posted. What? Because I legitimately didn't know. I said, "What has Charlie Kirk been saying about Israel lately?" And I didn't know what Charlie Kirk is. I'm not a Charlie Kirk fan. I wasn't following Charlie Kirk closely, but I asked the question, and I yeah, then all this stuff started coming out, and this Harrison Smith thing is the main thing that people are calling the smoking gun. I don't know if it's necessarily a smoking gun, but here's his thoughts.
But I wanted to make a video at least to talk a little bit about my tweet that's gone completely viral from last month. It's now the #1 tweet on anything Benjamin Netanyahu is posting. So thanks, guys. Really glad I'm on his radar now. That's cool.
Sorry.
It's true. I mean, I don't really have too much to add to it, honestly. I'm not going to say who it was that told me because they've asked me not to, kind of for obvious reasons. So if they want to go public, they're more than welcome to. I don't have much to add to it other than basically like a month ago, I watched an interview with Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk, and I thought they looked scared, and I commented on that, made a video out of it. And then like a day or so later, I was talking to this person, and the way I remember the conversation going was that we were just talking about sort of Israel and Zionism and Zionist influencers, and Charlie Kirk came up, and I remember the other person saying to me, well, you know, Charlie Kirk says he's afraid to go against Israel because he thinks they might kill him. And I said, that's crazy because I just made that video about how Charlie Kirk seems scared. That's crazy that you're saying that right now. And that's the way the conversation, I remember it going. It may have been the other way around. I may have said they look scared. And they said, well, you know, he says he thinks, you know, Israel will kill him for going against him. But then we talked about other stuff. You know, we moved on. I don't really have...
Anyway, that's basically it. About a month before Charlie Kirk got assassinated, Harrison allegedly heard from an unknown source that Charlie Kirk had said to him, I am scared that Israel is going to kill me. That's the extent of what we know about that situation, really. But it is odd that it came out, and then shortly after, Charlie Kirk passed away mysteriously, it would seem. Is this evidence of anything? I mean, it's at least eyebrow-raising, but Mr. Historian, is this evidence?
It's definitely eyebrow-raising, man, especially because this was put out before Kirk was shot. And what's interesting about this, too, is Harrison Smith has gone on to confirm that this source he talked to that said this is a different source than the one that Max Blumenthal got for his piece on the gray zone. And that's interesting because you have multiple people around him saying this. This was an unnamed source, apparently close with Charlie Kirk. It doesn't fully corroborate with the narrative that Max Blumenthal put out because at no point there did he say he felt like his life was threatened in that piece. But that's what Harrison is saying. This other friend said, I would like to know what the family thinks about this. And getting this information to the family is really important because the FBI, if this really is a cover-up and Israel is involved in this, which I don't believe, and I'm with Max Blumenthal, I'm with Candace Owens, I'm with Dave Smith in believing that. All of those sources do believe there are things that are at least interesting about this, but do come to that belief. I would want this information to go to her such that a private investigation can be launched in this regard. So I think this is really interesting. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't, you know, and you can see him kind of come to this in the Megyn Kelly clip where he jumps out, his frustration and his anger jumps out of that screen in part of that interview where he is saying, man, I'm feeling pressure. People are questioning my integrity now for levying minor criticisms toward Israel, such that me, the most vocal defender of Israel, he doesn't use those words, but he says that I can't criticize Israel more than an Israeli can criticize Israel. And there's something interesting about that.
Is this the clip here?
Yes, this is the clip.
Okay, let's play a bit of it. I don't know if I've seen this one intently.
And my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper paranoid, like we're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice. But it goes to the point where if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government without backlash than actual Israelis do. Mm-hmm. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megyn? That's not so right.
Wrong-headed. I'll tell you, this, for me, so I got some blowback after saying Mossad possibilities with Epstein, a comment behind which I stand. I mean, I realize, and I've, of course, reported what Alan Dershowitz has said as his lawyer. He says, I think he would have told me. He didn't say he had any of those connections. I hear all that. That doesn't mean it's not true. I think all these things should be explored. It's one of the many things that should be explored around Epstein. But saying that, and also saying he might be a U.S. asset, et cetera, doesn't make you anti-Semitic. That's fucking crazy. And then we get to last week, I go on Piers Morgan, right? So I go on Piers Morgan last week, and I don't talk about Israel a lot on this show. I just like covering the day-to-day of a conflict like this is not my thing. It's not what we do here at the Megyn Kelly Show. We haven't done it for Ukraine. We haven't done it for Israel. We haven't done it for a lot of conflicts, but we'll talk about it when big things happen. So Piers talks about it a lot. Piers asked me, it was a very interesting kind of culture study. So he asked me about the photos of the starving children out of Gaza. And I said a couple of things, both of which got a fair amount of pickup. All right, so first, this is what I said about the photos. Listen to SOT 10. Well, I'm always reluctant to put too much stock in the images coming out of Gaza, that phrase, because they're manipulated and they're masters of propaganda, and they're fine having their own children starve just as long as they can put them on camera and show them off to the world. That's Hamas. And frankly, it's a lot of Palestinians. So I'm very skeptical of taking those images at face value and saying it's Israel's fault. Okay.
All right. So we were talking about, they were talking about some stuff. There was
that part of the interview is being very ignored, by the way. The fact that both of them do repeat a lot of Hasbara propaganda.
Let me know if I should play it. I'm
no.
with the clip.
We don't have to go further, Dan, but I just want to say, this is really interesting. And Dave, you chime in too after this. I've talked a lot. But, if you take these things in isolation and be really selective about it, it looks like, yeah, he was totally turning against Israel. But I'm telling you, watch that full Megyn Kelly interview. They're talking a lot of pro-Israel propaganda about how you can't trust those pictures. It's not a genocide, etc. Same with the interview with Ben Shapiro that happened just a few days before he got shot, that people have kind of isolated some clips. I just want the full picture to be known by people on that. Don't take my word for it. Actually watch those videos.
Go ahead,
Dave. Yeah, I had not seen that. And I did hear he was, riding the line at best and a supporter maybe at worst. But I don't have any reason to suspect that he is a fake like Ted Cruz or Lindsey Graham or something like that. So I think that he is driven by his faith. He is animated and loves to be part of debate and conversation and logic and reason. And so I think, again, in our investigation, I think that that's and you're going to go against the Epstein stuff, which, and by the way, we haven't talked about this yet, but guy by the name of Horowitz purchased most of TikTok. I don't know if you guys heard that.
Yeah.
And I went to upload a Charlie Kirk clip.
Is that name Irish?
I believe so. I believe so. I went to immediately. It was a 1-minute clip from his appearance on Patrick Bet David when he said, "Yo, I've been to Israel a lot. That entire area that was invaded, there's a 19 or 20-year-old IDF soldier on every corner with a fully automatic weapon. Like that's just what it's like around there. So who, if anybody, gave a stand down order?" That's what he was talking about months, if not, I'm not sure when that appearance was, but it was, within recent history. I'm pretty sure if he holds those views, or if he did, that probably did, warrant getting talked to at the very least immediately following. And again, if you can't be black, we know that America runs on sexual blackmail. You're not going to get him for that, right? Building the case here, not making any accusations ish. But you got a guy with a lot of power, a tremendous amount of influence, who's still talking about things that you don't want to be talked about.
Israel
Epstein,
and Trump
Gaza.
don't want it to be talked
and
about.
We've established that he is a real Christian. So I bet you he doesn't, maybe he doesn't believe some of the propaganda or whatever that's coming out. But I bet you he knows about the death totals, just straight up, and I bet you that weighs on him. And Candace Owens, he doesn't take the same approach, but they are tight. They've went through a lot together. So I bet you he's paying attention, and you can't say everything all at once. I'm sure he is terrified because that's what they do. Oh my God. You're right, but that's what they. I mean, dude, you guys probably seen the interview. The Mossad guy went on TV. He was like, "Yeah, if you don't do it, we'll just fucking kill you." Like, I mean, that's the MO. And we already went through some history today, and at least some like solid theories about some motive in the 60s. And
yeah.
Yep. There's more. Harrison Smith's employer, Mr. Alex Jones, who I've had all my backs and forths on, even as a tinfoil hat guy. But here's his take on all this while Harrison Smith is blowing up because of him saying it was probably Israel. Also, Harrison Smith has said maybe Israel didn't kill Charlie Kirk, but if I die, it was Israel.
Well, it's completely obvious and people can't see it. No one's even said it. I just don't know what to say anymore. It's not Israel. But if you wanted to understand this, who would want to pave the way for them to be president in the future if Charlie Kirk was going to run? And I'm not saying that's what it is. You guys, if you want to think like this, you actually need to know how to think like it.
The tyrannies.
The Democrats know he had almost $500 million war chest, taking over the colleges, getting all the undecided, even some of the leftists.
Who else knew that he had a lot of money?
To vote and get engaged and wake up like dominoes. The brainwashing was falling. But more importantly, he was getting young conservatives to get mobilized and start getting others to vote, not just on the colleges, but in the towns and cities and rural areas, and they were getting energized.
You know what's funny? Alex Jones is like, it's the globalists, the globalists, the globalists. It's the globalists, the globalists. And now it's like, well, everybody's saying it's the Jews, but obviously it's the Democrats. The Democratic Party is directly responsible for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Definitely not even the globalists, because who knows what that means anymore. Guys, any thoughts?
Dude, I really hate this narrative. I'm not going to lie. I think it's one of the worst responses to this. Trump's response saying the radical left, collectivizing that term in that way. Like right after his shooting.
Same thing as Joe Biden saying the MAGA extremists and whatever in his
100%, dude. 100%. The horrible precedents that could be left by policies where this is the narrative that's the catalyst for would be catastrophic, and I hate that. Yeah, we're going to pretend that 40% of the American populace, your neighbor, is at fault for this vile murder. That is the most warped understanding. It's drawn us into disaster time after time. 9/11, it was the Muslims. Well, they forced the sword of the state against all of our throats after that in the form of the DHS, the Pentagon, endless wars, 20-year occupations of Afghanistan and Iraq, millions of dollars, billions of dollars down the drain over that crap. Hundreds of thousands of lives lost. 5 million in total for the war on terror can come from narratives like this. Terrible. I hated that response.
Absolutely. Mr. Casey.
Yeah, it's masterful how they got the two dominant cultural forces in this country to view the other as terrorists. That's just incredible. Again, all under the umbrella of the auspice of 9/11 and the war on terror and all leading up to now. Like that wasn't a thing in the 90s or like in America. That wasn't a thing where it's not just like, oh, I disagree with you politically. Like, no. Antifa or Nazis, both should be, they are curating the at least the passive acceptance, if not like the cheering on of black bag and your neighbor, because fuck it, they're probably on the other like that's insane, and I'm so sad about it, dudes, because it's not just like they convinced one group to like think this about another. It's like no, they got the dichotomy there of like both being, I'm the hero, that's a terrorist or whatever, a Nazi or whatever, so you can do whatever to a Nazi, and that's what they've convinced some of these awful people on the internet. Oh, well, it's just the radical left who is responsible for it, and that's why we need hate speech. Oh, it's the fascist who has the inflammatory speech who makes us do these things. It's just like
when
masterfully
when
evil.
Biden's in charge, the Republicans are anti-hate speech laws, and they're pro-free speech and everything, and the Republicans are shitting their pants waiting for the Biden to take away their guns and blah, blah, blah. Now that Trump's in charge. It's Trump it's the Democrats that are going to end up being anti-hate speech and pro-free speech and anti-war, because the regime will always be the regime, and the rest of us will be shitting our pants and opposing it. And the people who play in the two teams will ultimately, inevitably, be opposed to whatever the other one's saying. But if you find yourself shitting your pants, you can go on over to Sheath Underwear. My friends, do yourself a favor and elevate your daily comfort with Sheath Underwear. The innovative dual pouch design provides unparalleled support and separation, ensuring each part of your balls and package has the space that it deserves and needs. Probably not
That's
much
right.
space, but all the space it needs.
So experience the sophistication and design that respects your anatomy. The moisture-wicking technology sets a new standard for comfort. The advanced system not only helps keep everything cool, but prevents chafing and odor too. So make the movement. Feels effortless. Go grab these bad boys.
That's right. Go to sheathunderwear.com and use the promo code SYSTEM at checkout. Experience the perfect blend of comfort and functionality with Sheath. Again, that's sheathunderwear.com and use the promo code SYSTEM. And also, if you are experiencing the end times and you need to escape from it, go on over to Mycadelics. Connect with nature's wisdom. Mycadelics Mushrooms Grow Bags by Tyson 2.0 and Shroom. Now you can cultivate your own sacred mushrooms at home.
That's right. The all-in-one kits guide you on your transformative journey. Just add the liquid culture and witness the miracle of growth. The advanced filter technology preserves purity, allowing multiple harvests in 4 to 6 weeks.
So go to advancedmyco.com and use promo code SYSTEM to save $5 at checkout and embrace mindfulness and spiritual nourishment. Begin your mushroom journey with Mycadelics Grow Bags today. Must be 21 or older to order, and you might experience psychedelic effects if you get the psychedelic mushrooms. And finally, Perfect Spiral. Are you tired of the corporate banking cartel, whoever they may or may not be, and state-rigged markets stealing your wealth? Break free with Perfect Spiral Capital. They will help you build your own riches on your own terms outside whoever theirs is, grip.
Who are they? Yeah, if I were you, I would invest like a dissident, ditch the system, own your future, no handouts, no bailouts, just real results.
That's right. The system is rigged. It's full of riggers. Riggers all over the place, and we got to stop these riggers. Inflation is eating your savings. Opt out now and stack real assets with Perfect Spiral. Build wealth that lasts.
Perfect Spiral Capital. No bullshit, no red tape, just smart strategies for serious people who crave freedom and financial sovereignty.
Join the rebellion at perfectspiralcapital.com/system. And that's not even the right screen anymore, but let's get that out of there, and we'll go back here. All right, now moving on back to completely unrelated things. Marjorie Taylor Green had this to say about the whole Charlie Kirk conspiracy theory. Let's see if I can get this actually on screen. She said, Charlie Kirk invited me to speak at AmFest. America First Fest? Or no, AmFest. America Fest, I think is the name of Charlie Kirk's thing. A few weeks ago, before he was martyred. This was after I called for AIPAC to register under FARA and said that the nuclear-armed secular government of Israel was committing genocide in Gaza and killing innocent children, Christians, and people. He asked if I wanted to debate about AIPAC, but made it clear not against him. He said, him, TPUSA, would do whatever I wanted or whatever I want on the issue. If you don't know who to believe between Bibi Netanyahu, a foreign country's leader, or Charlie's personal friends Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, I'm posting my last text message with Carly. Believe Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, and at the same time, always remember, 1, Charlie Kirk is an American Christian. 2, Charlie Kirk is a devoted, loving husband and father. 3, Charlie Kirk is a Christian movement leader, a giant in American history. That seems like the same as number 1, but okay. Number 4, Charlie Kirk is a Christian martyr for Jesus Christ. Number 5, Charlie Kirk is a free speech warrior and was committed to nonviolent debate. Do not allow for a foreign country, foreign agents, and another religion religion tell you about Charlie Kirk, and I hope a foreign country and foreign agents and another religion does not take over. Christian Patriotic Turning Point USA. A lot of words, talky butch there, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and flag that as problematic. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with most of that, and I hate the fact that a lot of people feel that they have to make qualifying statements that it's not appropriate to kill someone, but that they disagreed. But I think there's value in that too. And, I agree with much of what she said there. There are things that I didn't agree with Kirk on, on the tariffs, on being a China hawk, being too apologetic, I believe, for the Israeli genocide in Gaza. But those things are true, man. Say what you want to say. Charlie really did believe in the power of free speech. He believed that that was the gift of his creator, not his government. And that if we don't have discourse like that, we will have violent discourse, the same kind of violence that killed him ultimately. So I think there's a lot of value in what Marjorie Taylor Green said there. And by the way, she's pretty much the biggest hero in Congress now, other than Thomas Massey, by far.
Absolutely. Dave Casey.
Yeah, I think that this is just a little interesting, and it gives me a little bit of hope to see people kind of, I guess people are on two different sides of this, but like Candace is asking for screenshots of conversations, and Dave, put some up to like, hey, just so you know, and now she's talking about, hey, this is what we were talking about. I'm interested to see, because I bet you he seems like he was really loved, and everybody seemed to enjoy him, at least, like even people that disagree with him, like this is a good guy, good faith. So I want to hope that some of these people, like that this will turn into something. And it seems like Candace Owens too is at least, like acting honestly to the best of her ability. And she seems like she's really pissed, and I like that. I want to see her go hard. So I like that some people are just kind of like, hey, just so you know, yeah, this is what he was thinking 2 months ago. I think that's an interest. It's like in a criminal investigation like that, those things stacked up on top of each other, I think count.
Especially since...
I noticed that
Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, sorry, Dan. I noticed that the neocons that were friends with Charlie Kirk, like Ben Shapiro, had not been very forthcoming, by the way, about what Charlie Kirk said in private about Israel, and they're chalking that up as
Israel's greatest asset, which is America's greatest asset. Like, that's how they're painting it.
They're saying, well, it would be immoral to share these conversations. And it's like, well, Charlie's legacy is being twisted in a certain direction. I think that's pretty immoral, by the way. So, take from what you will about that. But there's been way more transparency from Dave Smith and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson on this than from Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin. Let's just be honest.
Absolutely. Side note, it's just crazy from our unique perspective that Dave Smith is kind of in this thing a little bit. That's wild. Yeah. 4 years ago, he was fucking hanging out on a stream like this debating Archie Flower. And that's fucking crazy. Go, dude, But
absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, Candace Owens called out to some extent, not really called out, but said to Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson, her friends also, and mutual friends of Charlie Kirk, hey, put out I'm challenging you to put out any text conversations that you've had with Charlie Kirk leading up to you guys' talking on stage at TPUSA and all that stuff, and anything that you may have seen behind the scenes. And so initially, as was mentioned early on in the show, Dave Smith had said there was absolutely zero evidence for thinking this way, and he kind of said it was stupid. There was nothing to even indicate that Israel had anything to do with this. And then after the call out from Candace Owens, he said this, and I don't remember exactly where it is, but we'll find it. And we're not playing the whole 8-minute clip.
I'm gonna say it, but he's making the point that it was horrible what happened to them, but it's also so this was Charlie Kirk unprompted texted me about the Douglas Murray debate. Now, just like kind of keeping in mind, and I'll fully disclaim here, Charlie Kirk's a really nice guy. You could chalk a lot of this up to him being nice, but the Douglas Murray debate with me, I'm not overstating. This was like a big thing. This may have been the biggest high-profile debate on Israel. And this is what Charlie Kirk wrote to me. Sunday, April 13th at 8:01 p.m. Listen to you on Rogan. You did well, despite me being more on the pro-Israel side. Very little I disagree with what you said. One point, when Douglas was going on about you using arguments from authority, it's a ridiculous claim. You were using original source quotes to prove their motives, all capital and motives, not their analysis of geopolitics, etc. Two totally different things. You were right on that point 100%. Keep up the good work. Hope to cross paths at some point soon. I'm sorry, hope to cross paths at some point. And I wrote back, thanks, Charlie. I really appreciate that.
Okay, we'll jump ahead.
Literally reading it as you texted. No. And then he goes off on a whole thing. You can look up the tweet if you want to say it. But he's making the point that it was horrible what happened to them, but it's also messed up to like blame anybody who was criticizing Israel for now being responsible for them doing this. So he sent me that tweet. And I responded back as he sent me this at noon on May 22nd. And I responded back at 12:01. I said, I was literally reading it as you texted. And I said, thank you. I really appreciate that. We need cooler heads to prevail here. It's a very dangerous situation. And he said, totally. And then he said, we should do a podcast in person and have a fun, lighthearted, contrasting conversation on Israel. I bet we actually agree on most of it, truly. I will, and then he said, I will not scold you for not being. So he made a never been joke. And then I said, I'm going to need that in writing. And then he said, screenshot it. And okay, I didn't actually plan on screenshotting that or reading that aloud.
Okay, so Dave Smith admittedly did not have a ton to say, like a much evidence or anything, but he was willing to put out there, hey, Charlie Kirk did seem to be at a bit of a turning point, if you will, on this topic, because not only did he have Dave Smith on the TPUSA thing, not only did he have Tucker Carlson on, but he was saying behind the scenes, hey, I don't think we would disagree on a lot of things. Let's get together and talk about Israel. And texting Marjorie Taylor Green and saying, hey, let's talk about Israel. Come on and debate AIPAC. It seems like, and then that combined with the Harrison Smith thing, if he was concerned that Israel was behind the scenes conspiring something against him, I can certainly see how somebody would get to the conclusion that Charlie Kirk, big rah-rah Israel guy at a time when Gen Z is completely anti-Israel for whatever, like whether you agree with them or not, Gen Z is Charlie Kirk's base. The young generation is Charlie Kirk's base. Gen Z is also becoming very anti-Israel. And the conservative movement is having to figure out how to make this make sense. This whole thing that they've concocted, or that's been concocted for them, if you will, about Israel being the chosen people and we have to support them. Charlie Kirk was starting at least to be like, hey, let's talk about this. And it's been mentioned a couple times on the show. There was the point where, according to many sources, multiple sources, Charlie Kirk was allegedly offered $150 million from Israel to be more rah-rah Israel, and he said no. $150 million might seem like a lot, and it is, because it's the same amount that Turning Point USA was already getting from donors and already putting out there. Israel, or Benjamin, AIPAC, whoever, allegedly offered $150 million, which is double the income of Turning Point USA, and Charlie Kirk said no. And then Benjamin Netanyahu said, I offered him to a trip to Israel to come talk about it, and he said no, and that will never happen. I don't know. And the biggest question that I have is, if it was what it seems like to me, which it doesn't have to seem like to anybody else, it seems like to me that Israel had some sort of reason, at least motive for this. I still don't have any way that they pulled it off. So I'm not saying that it is Israel, and I have no through line to be like, that's how they got to the guy who's that with the trans person and made him inscribe on the bullets this thing and say these things in texts or whatever. Like, it doesn't make sense, but it's odd, and to say that there's no reason to suspect even that Israel is involved in this is crazy. And also, I need to see some sort of through line to make it make sense.
Yeah, man, like I'm totally for this being a story, not to shut down conversation of this in any way. A few things that you said, I have seen this reported that the number of millions wasn't 150, but was 40. And in both cases, I haven't seen anything to really substantiate that that was true.
Sure.
No one around Charlie has like shown receipts about that. But whether it was one of those two, it would be ridiculously significant. Even if it was less than 40 million, it would have been significant. But we do know he did turn down that trip that Netanyahu offered. Netanyahu himself said on Greta Van Susteren that he did not go on the trip that he wanted Charlie to go on. And look,
Even
I tend to agree.
Did he mean that Charlie died too soon before he could go on the trip, or that he turned it down? Because people saying that he turned it down, that sounds right. Probably if he turned down $150 million or even $40 million.
Yeah, Candace said he turned it down, but Dan, that's definitely worthy of conversation. I come down more on the side with Dave here, but I will say the only thing I really disagreed with Dave in his episode breaking this down is saying that he was surprised that Max Blumenthal ran this article and had the Israel did it section. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think this is really good journalism from an unnamed source with substantial things involving this. And the Israel did it section, it does, and Dave's acknowledged this, it flat out says that Max has no evidence that, you know, Israel did this, but very prominent people were talking about it, including Ian Carroll, who's huge right now, by the way, and Dave Smith. So that's a story that people are talking about this. You know, there's pushback in it, but I have no linkage either. And the last thing I'll say about this is, you know, for people so dug into this narrative that I just don't understand. I do understand people that have questions about this, that their eyebrows are raised, that there's something here worth investigating. But well, like with Martin Luther King, we had the fact that the FBI wiretapped him, right, under COINTELPRO. We have the fact that the jury in Tennessee in 1998 found the FBI responsible for his murder. We have the fact that Deputy Director William Sullivan wrote a letter to King trying to convince him to commit suicide. With JFK, we had the associations between Lee Harvey Oswald and the CIA. We had the fact that Dulles, the head of the CIA and the architect of the creation of the CIA, was dismissed by Kennedy over the Bay of Pigs, and then he was set to lead the Warren Commission. Yeah, it took some time for those things to come out. And that's all I'm asking, people to take some time to see information that actually does link Israel and make that case. But right now, man, I got to say this narrative is a little sloppy. I'm mostly with Dave on that, but I'm much more interested in covering
There's 3
it.
Daves in this conversation. It seems like you're agreeing with Dave Casey, but I'm pretty sure you're agreeing with Dave Smith. You might be agreeing with yourself.
Great.
I don't know.
I love Dave supremacy all day.
Dave Casey, any thoughts?
I think, look, man, I get why Dave, who is like, you know, a prominent voice, would take that position. And I get why anyone in the media or the press would also, you know, hesitate before just coming out here like we get to do and go, I don't know, bro, that looks pretty shady to me. So like, I feel free to say certain things that maybe, you know, you shouldn't in higher places. But again, this is the beautiful thing about having a historian here who's been paying attention to this shit. Like for me, I get to have, we're not in a court of law in our investigation. It's almost like the inverse. It's like, you got to prove to me, not that you did it. You got to prove to me that the official story isn't bullshit. Because I've seen too many official bullshit stories to fucking fill up my whole fucking desk. Like all of them just lined up for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to need more than open and shut case, Johnson. We've got this guy who won't confess and his tranny boyfriend, and everything's good. Found it in a towel. Bullet casings have trannies on them. You know,
yep.
Let's do hate speech now. Like, no. Fuck no.
Unrelated to nothing, completely different news. 250 legislators from the U.S. went to Israel immediately after, like 4 days after Charlie Kirk's death, and kissed the wall and did all that. Here's this one. Since
Including
Charlie
Rubio.
Kirk's assassination, 250 U.S. legislators are in Israel promoting 50 states, one Israel project. House bans the Pentagon from boycotting Israel. $650 million military aid to Israel. Bill proposed to revoke U.S. passports for Israel. Critics There's something in this video that I wanted to point out too. I don't remember what anything is anymore. So that's happening. Also, we haven't really touched that much on the Bill Ackman stuff, which has been that could probably be an entire episode of its own. People saying that needs to be investigated. Oh, there's Donald Trump Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk on a billboard in Israel that says at the bottom, you can't see it, Shalom or Shlomo Pearl, which some people are saying means, one of its many meanings means patsy, basically. Shlomo Pearl, gullible patsy, someone so naive they fall for tricks and metaphorically disappear into them without a trace. They put that up allegedly with a billboard, and I'm just rapid firing all of this, and we can respond to it at the end because I know that we got to get out of here pretty soon. But this all ties also into the hate speech stuff that we talked about. Donald Trump supporting it, Pam Bondi's pushing it. This is coming immediately after Charlie Kirk's assassination. They're pushing that in honor of Charlie Kirk, we need to be anti-hate speech. We need to pass hate speech laws and crack down on freedom of speech. Yeah, we'll get to some of that in a little bit. But as far as this, I don't know, all this stuff, the 250 U.S. legislators in Israel immediately after Candace Owens calling out Bill Ackman. I don't know. I'm not a historian. I don't know really much of anything about Bill Ackman. Feel free to crack into all of these or any of these things as much as you want.
Not much there. Just Bill Ackman has like $8 billion. Tucker Carlson has said, he's not an impressive person publicly at that Turning Point USA event. He talked about that in his podcast last night. And apparently Ackman's one of the guys that really wanted to try to recapture, Charlie Kirk's complete devotion to Israel, right? And that was some of the pressure he was feeling, not only with Ackman, but Ackman does seem to be the central figure, but also Seth Dillon, the owner and operator of the Babylon Bee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and wasn't so according to Candace Owens, her theory is that Bill Ackman had this intervention with Charlie Kirk where he was the one pressuring him to be more pro-Israel, and then Bill Ackman is, if I'm understanding correctly, the one who was offering money to whoever found or whoever could turn in the suspect on the Charlie Kirk shooting. So now Bill Ackman is potentially the person who's going to pay the father of the alleged shooter a whole bunch of money, which some people have speculated could be paying him money to get him out in court or what have you. I don't know. There's so much to this that I can't even follow it.
Yeah, that's what I know about it too. That's what Candace has said, that there was this intervention as if he was an alcoholic, right? Because that's how Zionists look at this. Like, this is a serious, debilitating problem. If you raise one minor critique toward Israel, you're automatically an anti-Semite. There needs to be an intervention. You need to be steered back on the right course. And by the way, they don't care if you're Jewish or not. They think Norm Finkelstein is anti-Semitic. They've called him that, the son of a Holocaust. He's the son of Holocaust survivors. They do it to Jeffrey Sachs. They do it to Dave Smith. They do it to Max Blumenthal. They do it to Aaron Mate. You're going to be tried to be reined in by the powers that be at the head of the Israel lobby. And it looks like there is some evidence to suggest that. That's interesting. That's a story, regardless of where you stand on whether Israel was culpable or not. And that's just, I think, very important to cover. This is a story. Whether or not you think Israel was involved or not, I really feel strongly about that, even though I have a position on that.
Yeah. Dave Casey, thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just echo what he said, man. I mean, yeah, maybe we don't have all the proof. If this were a court of law, we probably wouldn't win this case. But I don't know, man. It looks to me like I don't buy it.
If I may, before you give that final thought, one more piece of evidence in the court, if I may. This is 60 Minutes, right after the pager bombings. Mossad agent.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from, or think they were buying it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
How did you convince Hezbollah?
I don't know why, but I believe him, yo.
Well, believe them when they tell you who they are, and I don't know. Like, I want to agree that there's not enough here to go on because I don't have the through line on the end, and I don't want it to be a confirmation bias, quite frankly. Like, I want to know the truth. I want to know who did it. If it's just some mad tranny who doesn't like that Charlie Kirk said marriage is between a man and a woman. If that's all this is, then so be it. I want to know, but it's going to have to make sense. There's gonna have to be a through line as to how it makes sense that this guy, who, even whether he was a griper or a furry, it doesn't matter. They also claim that he never owned a gun before this, and then he suddenly became a 200-yard sharpshooter or something. There's a whole lot of questions. There's not a through line to how it makes sense that this just rando kid broke through security and evaded the FBI for all this time, and then it like their stories go back and forth all over the place. There's not necessarily a clear through line as to if Israel did this, if this was that. How does that make sense? It doesn't. I don't have it yet. I don't have it for either way, though. This doesn't make sense no matter how you slice it. But there's to say, like, it's kind of like my thing with the moon landing and my arguments when I debated people about the moon landing back in the day. Like, I don't know if the moon landing happened, but I know that there's a lot of people that are staking a lot of things on a lot of things. Why do they believe that? It seems like there might be something there, and I would like to know why that is. And it bothers me that this isn't just like domestic political terrorism against like a political extremist. This is well, if you go back to the beginning of The System is Down, the show was started on we're going to have uncomfortable conversations. We're going to change the world one uncomfortable conversation at a time. We're going to go out there and change the world by just sitting down with people we disagree with and having uncomfortable conversations. And then Charlie Kirk did that. And he is basically what the show was played out. Like, where does this go if that's where that very benign concept of having conversations played out, no matter whether it was the Jews or Israel or the CIA or Antifa or transsexuals or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I know that if the country cannot handle the idea of conversing with milquetoast people that they disagree with in the center, then our country is just completely fucked, and we have no reason to even, have discussion anymore. Any thoughts?
Yeah, man, you said a lot of great things there pretty poetically. One of the point I think associated with what you just said is the fact that when our political system has as its centerpiece violence, and it's not just, our foreign policy, which is particularly violent and murderous. It's also, the extortion apparatus, the drug war, the surveillance state, the regulatory apparatus. All of it is based in the end on the monopolization of power against the American people. That's what our government is. And when you have a governmental system based on such violence, it's just inevitable that it's going to play out domestically. And I think that's what we're seeing here. This incident has kind of shown in some ways the very worst parts of humanity in some of the responses, and in some ways, some of the very best. You can, take that for what you will. People have had different responses and, viewing the responses to it and coming to different conclusions. But I've said most of, I think, what I believe on this podcast. But the last thing I do want to say is, if you take Charlie Kirk in his life, even in the last 2 months of his life, you could conduct a narrative with a video, a type of video that you are very good at, by the way, Dan, to make a very selective case that no, Israel could not have done it. This is a nothing burger. All he did was repeat Israeli propaganda with Ben Shapiro, with, prominent Zionists all the time on his show. You could have a 12-minute show on that, but you also could have a video that, Israel could not have done this. Israel had to have done this. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Dan, you made Chase Oliver look based to some extent. So you can't tell me you can make Chase Oliver look based, but
I did not work
make
with Chase
this
Oliver.
case.
I worked with a lot of people. Joe Jorgensen. I worked with Vermin Supreme. I worked with a lot of people, but I did not. I offered Chase Oliver. I did not.
Jorgensen then. Jorgensen, but fair enough, man. But fair enough. I think you get.
I made a lot of unbased people look based. Your point is well taken.
And that's because you're a master of your trade, Dan. But I'm saying that applies here too. I think the people running so heels into this one way or the other are going on selective narratives. And I guess I fall somewhere in the middle. If that makes me, a coward or whatever, I've heard that over and over in my comments section. I'm just covering for Israel and stuff like that, even though I have like 200 anti-Israel videos and stuff like that. And to be honest, I think, the proper response, if you want to be just kind of a troll to that, is, well, you think it's Israel? Why are you covering for the CIA? The CIA obviously did this, right? So that's what I think about it. Everybody's up for grabs at this point. Like, it could be anybody, and there's reasons to believe multiples of them. But yes, I do make propaganda, and I like to investigate propaganda and see through propaganda, and I've seen a lot of it lately. And you make the best kind of propaganda, Dan. The best kind. Thank you. Thank you. Dave Casey, any final thoughts on all of this? And then we'll get out of here in a moment.
Yeah, man, it was fun to talk about, conspiracy theories with you guys tonight, shooting cameras and guys with their sleeves and all the things and all this. I'm very familiar with this world. But at the end of the show, man, I'm not going to close the criminal investigation, let's say, but I'm more interested and I'm more certain that we are fighting a very sophisticated, organized, funded, evil force. And that is what I am comfortable knowing. Like, I don't need to know any. I don't need to know who the shooter guy was. Maybe he had this and I'm going to try to be as unbothered by that as I can and recognize that we are fighting pure evil. And I'm going to focus on that. And I think that'll be good for me. That's going to be where I'll be spending some energy.
Cool. Dave Casey, where can people find you?
Dissidentmedia.com and also Dave versus Goliath 1 on Twitter.
Dave Benner, where can people find you?
Liberty Vault on YouTube and also dbenner83 on Twitter. And guys, thanks so much. This was awesome. Love joining you guys. And this discussion needs to happen. This is a story regardless of where you stand on it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being here. And thank you everybody else for being here. We will end on this. First off, you can find me at TSIDpod on Twitter, thesystemsdown.tv, massyaf.com, distantmedia.com, wherever the System Is Downs are sold. But Charlie Kirk, for whatever Pam Bondi wants to say was his legacy, she wants you to believe that, the Trump administration, Pam Bondi, wants you to believe that Charlie Kirk's legacy was less free speech, more hate speech laws, and you need to crack down on that. Wherever the shooter thing goes, I just want you to know that Charlie Kirk's legacy should be something like this. Good men must die, Charlie Kirk said on February 26, 2013. Good men must die, but death can't kill their names. And here's a little something of Charlie Kirk's name that we'll send out on, and we'll go from there.
I have 30 seconds left to live. I'm dying from a gunshot wound. But what would you actually want to tell me if I have 30 seconds left to live?
In 30 seconds, you're about to meet eternal judgment. And so you got 10 seconds left. You're dying from a gunshot wound. And there's only one way that you can get bailed out of that. And it's not all the good things you did or the moral scorecard. It's whether or not you have Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And that's the only thing that's going to matter.
How do you want to be remembered?
If I die,
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing to me.
Thanks for watching. Smash all the like and subscribe buttons because that's what we say at the end of videos. Good night, everybody.
This concludes our broadcast day.
This has been a Dissident Media production.